Earlier this week, a judge ruled an embattled dentist facing 12 counts of fraud is not competent for prosecution. Dr. Howard Schneider closed his practice and surrendered his license 2 years ago. He was accused of abusing children and indicted on several counts of Medicaid fraud. After several psychiatric evaluations, a judge agreed with the findings and said that Schneider is not mentally competent for trial, at least not yet. Joining me now is attorney Rhonda Peoples-Waters, who's not affiliated with the case. So we say not yet, but you don't think he's ever actually going to go to trial. Why is that?
No, I don't think so. So Judge Angela Cox in this case, she heard from the experts from the state side and the defense side and ruled that he was incompetent to proceed, not able to assist with his trial, answer questions, maybe that would assist in his defense. And so now at this point, she's determined that he may be able to receive some type of outpatient care and mental health treatment. And what they're going to try to do is see if he gets to the point where they can restore his competency. But I suspect not. He's 79 years old. There's talk of him having dementia. So it's very unlikely that he'll ever get to the point of being able to truly understand the nature of these charges and assist with his defense.
Yeah, they even say with dementia, it's impossible to reverse it. You can prevent further sometimes, but you can't really go back in time. Now, as far as putting somebody with dementia on the stand, talk about that. That's just not.
Well, absolutely. Just imagine a question being posed to him from the defense attorney, and then obviously he has to remember that question, and with dementia there's an issue of short-term memory loss. So if he can't remember that question, then of course, you know, that's not going to assist in his defense in any type of trial proceeding or hearings. So that's why at this point the judge has determined that he's incompetent to proceed, and they will send him to the mental health facilities to determine if he can get the appropriate treatment. And it's also important that there's in the statute, it allows for a time period of 5 years to elapse. So he can kind of go through the court process. The court will get updates as far as his mental health treatment. And after 5 years, the court may be able to dismiss the charges against him and allow the Department of Children and Families to just give him the further outpatient treatment that he needs.
But 5 years from now, I mean, the man is almost 80 years old. Is it really going to go on that long?
It absolutely could. I mean, but it's very likely that he will just continue to get the mental health treatment that he needs in the court system.
So if he doesn't go to trial, what could we see? Settlements, and how is that going to affect families?
Well, it certainly, it seems as though most of the families have reached some type of settlement. And for the remaining few that were hopeful that an outcome in the criminal case or maybe statements that he was going to make in a criminal case might help their civil case, that's unlikely. And it's certainly understood that they would probably need to move forward with their settlements as well.
So really, he's only being charged with fraud. We were hearing about the, alleged child abuse and how he strapped him down and all of these things, which of course you can read more about that online.
Absolutely.
If you're not familiar with this case. But why didn't that ever stand up?
Well, I think that that's important too. We've heard about all of those allegations, but what his actual charges are Medicaid fraud and schemes to defraud, which we term as, kind of white collar fraud, but there's not any allegations of violence in those charges. And I'm sure that those are considerations that the court has to take to determine whether he can get outpatient treatment or whether he needs to be in some type of secure mental health lockdown treatment.
Wow. It's a lot there and really could go anywhere at this point, but I think you're probably right along the lines that you're guessing here. So we appreciate your perspective as always. It seems like it's likely to go that way. So to read more about Howard Schneider's case, like I was saying, head over to our website, newsforjax.com. Pretty interesting stuff.